Good, happy Friday morning, February 18, 2022. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this news update right here on the Riley King Radio Network. Let's get started right now. First up, man arrested for stealing used cooking oil. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
40-year-old Phil Perez was arrested by Manchester police this week after he was captured on surveillance video in January siphoning used cooking oil from the Puritan Backroom restaurant into a red van.
Cooking oil in general that's been used at a restaurant can be recycled, and it can be used for biodiesel, and it can be worth quite a bit of money. So that's the reason why some of these thefts are taking place.
Well, Manchester police say they've gotten a handful of reports of such incidents in recent months. Amenico, a company out of Pittsfield that collects and recycles used cooking oil, says it actually happens more often than you would think.
The price has increased, so it's more profitable to the thieves than it was even a year ago.
Amenico pays restaurants 75 cents to $1 per gallon for used cooking oil. They then refine the oil and resell it as diesel or heating oil.
It very directly affects us, but to be honest, it's almost a bigger impact on the restaurants themselves because, restaurants have spent 2 years really struggling to rebuild their business, and every bit of revenue helped.
Police say it's hard to tell how much cooking grease was stolen from the Puritan Backroom, as there's no real way to measure how much came from where. David Ossoff with Amenico says the Puritan probably wasn't the crook's only stop.
We've seen this increase over the last 6-8 months to pretty startling levels. I mean, we had a driver do a Manchester route just 2 weeks ago where at least 10 of his stops had been stolen from that night.
And Manchester police say the best thing that restaurants can do to protect themselves from theft like this is to put up surveillance cameras like the Puritan did. Now, as for the suspect in this whole case, Phil Perez, he now faces one felony charge of theft by unauthorized taking. We're live in Manchester tonight. Scott Cook, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. House passes bill to curb aspects of New Hampshire's new 24-week abortion ban. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
A surprise vote, the New Hampshire House agreed to roll back some aspects of the controversial Fetal Life Protection Act that had passed in the state budget last year. Today, Democrats and a handful of Republicans passed a bill to add exceptions to the 24-week abortion ban for rape, incest, and fatal fetal abnormalities. It also strikes down the mandate that requires an ultrasound before any abortion. The bill is heading back to a committee for more work. If it does eventually pass the House, it faces a very high hurdle in the GOP-controlled state Senate.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Police investigate shooting in Claremont. Man shot in stable condition. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
132 years this ranch has been in my family.
Just tell me how to fight.
Well, Monica, this shooting happened more than 4 hours ago, but still at this hour, state and local police remain on the scene here on West Lafayette Street in Claremont. The investigation is focused on this home behind me. That apartment is where police say that the shooting happened. After 6:30 tonight, police say they responded to Valley Regional Hospital, where a man was getting treatment for a gunshot wound to the lower part of his body. Right now, he is in stable condition. Tonight, investigators are waiting on a search warrant so they can go into the residence on West Lafayette Street. Police believe multiple people may have been involved in this incident, and they say they've identified most of them, and authorities do not believe that there is any threat to the public.
Anytime anybody's injured, whether it's an accident or whether it's intentional act, we take it serious, and we do as much as we can to figure out what occurred and give the public the assurance that we have a safe community and we're here doing what we're supposed to do.
This remains an active investigation, and police are asking anyone with any information on this incident to give them a call. Again, one man has been shot here on West Lafayette Street in Claremont. He is in the hospital tonight, and we're told he is in stable condition. Reporting live in Claremont tonight, Mike Cronin, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Appeal rejected for convicted tax invader. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
He was at the center of an 8-month-long armed standoff.
It's a situation that could have really developed into a very, very violent confrontation.
2007, Ed Brown and his wife Elaine were convicted of tax evasion. They were holed up in their fortified home in Plainfield. U.S. Attorney John Farley says 18 guns, 20 pipe bombs, and other weapons were recovered when the couple was finally arrested by marshals.
They kept what could have been a powder keg from exploding.
Brown was then sentenced to 37 years in prison, but that punishment was called into question when the U.S. Supreme Court said some crimes could no longer be prosecuted federally, including one charge that Brown was convicted of. So Brown was entitled to be resentenced, and in 2020 he was to 25 years. He appealed, saying his constitutional rights were being violated. But yesterday, an appeals court rejected his request.
This was a very serious crime, a dangerous crime that he committed. Anyone who was in New Hampshire at the time of Mr. Brown's standoff understood the gravity of the situation.
Brown is 79. He would be 91 when he's scheduled to be released. Attorney Farley says behind bars is exactly where Brown belongs.
A very significant sentence was really important here, not only to protect the public from Mr. Brown, but also to send an important deterrent message that this kind of conduct is completely unacceptable.
Mike Cronin, WMUR News 9.
Brown's wife, Elaine, was released from prison in 2020. She served 12 years.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Sex trafficking survivors share their story. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
It was a dreary and raw January day in 1980. Snowbanks lined city streets in Haverhill, Massachusetts. Darlene Pollock was standing in several inches of slush outside of her neighborhood convenience store, waiting to be picked up by a pimp. It was her 14th birthday.
I just kind of looked out at a three-way intersection. I wondered, can anybody see me?
But no one noticed Darlene as she climbed into a black Lincoln Continental and headed north. She was just sold to a businessman in Atkinson, New Hampshire.
My buyer was very, very happy and tickled when I awkwardly took off my socks frozen to my feet, and I lost my balance. He just giggled. And I'll never forget that moment because it sort of solidified for me that I was not actually a person, but just an implement for the use of someone's sexual gratification.
You see, Darlene was just beginning a journey into a dark, dark world many of us know little about, but it's one that is all too familiar for Jasmine Grace Marino.
You're not seen as a human. You're looked at as a product to be bought and sold.
Jasmine was 19. Her trafficker was a man who she thought was her boyfriend. The two dated for months. They were in love, or at least that's what Jasmine thought.
So he had total ulterior motives. I had no idea that I was, going to become his first one. He didn't have any other women working for him at the time. He was from the streets. He sold guns and drugs, and he knew that selling women would be a lot more profitable and a lot less risky.
Darlene and Jasmine were trafficked for several years. Darlene was passed between 4 different buyers. Jasmine was sent to a massage parlor in Hartford, Connecticut, before she was moved to another one in Kittery, Maine.
And it was a really weird situation because I was a runaway. I could have left. But it was this strange thing where I didn't.
The best they can do is to beat you down and to also make you believe that you chose this life of prostitution.
Darlene and Jasmine did not grow up in traditional homes and dealt with struggles at an early age. Circumstances traffickers look for in their victims, says Tori Neville, director of the New Hampshire Human Trafficking Collaborative Task Force.
Unfortunately, one of the things that traffickers are really good at is meeting a need. And so whether that need might be related to a drug addiction, whether that need might be related to neglect that a child is facing, whether that need might be socioeconomic.
In 2021, task force investigators responded to more than 100 tips about human trafficking in New Hampshire, with potential victims in every county ranging in ages from 3 to more than 60 years old. More than 80% of those tips were for sex trafficking.
That type of trafficking co-occurs with some other violations like sexual assault or child abuse, and so it's more likely to be reported, and then we're able to identify, oh, there was actually trafficking elements in this case.
But actually prosecuting an offender can be difficult, especially when it comes to getting a victim to testify against them.
That in and of itself is a traumatic experience, and that requires a lot of support and a lot of compassion on the part of investigators and prosecutors to build those cases.
There's also a push from the federal level down. Right now, Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Justice Department are working with states to come up with a new strategy to combat human trafficking.
That's going to take a number of different forms. It's going to involve prosecuting the criminals who are engaging in this activity, training individuals to identify this activity.
Darlene and Jasmine have now dedicated their lives to fight human trafficking and to make sure no other person goes through what they did.
Because it isn't going away and I'm still breathing. So as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to do what I can.
Knowing that my mess has turned into my message and that I can help other women feel not alone and walk alongside them really is empowering.
Tim Callery, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this news update right here on the Riley King Radio Network. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.